Overland Park might need to watch out because Olathe is growing really quickly and shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Take a look at this. This is Livability's Top 100. This is probably the most renowned ranking system for cities and suburbs across the country. Over the last year, 2022 to 2023, Overland Park jumped from 5th place and they moved down to 7th place in that 1 year time frame. Olathe, however, moved from 25th and jumped clear up to 15th place. So this video, I'm going to answer the question of how did they make that big of a stride? What is actually changing? And of course, I'm going to provide some of my own insights because a lot of the families that I've been able to work with who are relocating to Kansas City, a good amount of them have actually ended up in Olathe, whether it's trying to find a home under $400,000 or whether it's building an affordable home or even building a brand new higher end home. And they've got a lot of options is what I'm trying to say. And we're going to break down the 7 different highlights, as well as what the trajectory of the city will actually look like over the next decade. Now, before we get into like the nitty gritty details, if you're wondering what in the world is this guy talking about, here's where Olathe is on the map. It is in the Kansas City metro area, but it's on the Kansas side, and it's just west and south of like the principal downtown Kansas City area. So one of the big criticisms that people have of Olathe, which I'll put the link to the whole video down in the description below, it's all of the cons, all of the negatives to living in Olathe, some of the criticisms that a lot of the residents have had. This video is the antidote to that. But one of the big ones is that it's just too far and too outside of like the central Kansas City area. And in this video, we're going to be delving into why that might be a big benefit. So my fundamental thesis in this video is that a lot of those criticisms in that previous video I did are evolving quickly. It's a changing situation and many different parts of the city are evolving. So just take a look at this. This is the population growth of Overland Park versus Olathe. You can see that Olathe has just been growing much more rapidly than Overland Park, and it's not even close. So imagine if we just expanded this over another 10-year, 20-year timeline. Imagine how much faster Olathe will grow compared to Overland Park. Now, number one, branching off of those population graphs that I showed you, has to be development. As the population of the area increases, keep in mind, it's far away from like the central Kansas City, Missouri area, which means that the homes are going to be newer because a lot of the construction started in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and a lot of it is in full swing as we speak today. So what we're seeing right now, if you drive around Olathe, you're going to see new home communities, especially the farther outside of the Johnson County, Kansas City, Missouri area you go. You're going to see a lot of new development, shops, retail, other commercial spaces. There are a lot of employers in Olathe. So part of that population growth is probably due to people relocating to the area for some type of work. Of course, if you're working remote, that could be another reason why you're relocating. You get to live in one of the most popular, one of the safest counties in the entire country. But compared to the price of living in any of the other counties across the country that could compare to it, it happens to be pretty low. So a few of those big employers happen to be the FAA, you've got Farmers Insurance, Garment International, you've got the Johnson County government, which is actually housed in Olathe itself. And of course, you've got the Olathe Medical Center, which recently joined with the KU Health Systems. Now, all of that drives growth for the city. It creates a positive feedback loop. And that's probably why on that graph of the population growth that we see basically a near vertical line, which is just crazy to think about. Reason number 2, the real estate prices are just cheaper. This is one of my favorite things about Olathe, and it's also one of the big reasons why a lot of my clients have actually landed there in the first place. Not everybody started out their search just wanting to be in Olathe. Usually, when people are wanting to move to Johnson County, we're looking at Overland Park because kind of like we talked about in the intro, it's like in all of the national rankings, it's what everybody hears about. It's got the Blue Valley School District. So that's where everybody starts their search. But if you look at some of those home prices, it's going to cost a premium for that exact reason. And because you've got all the shops, restaurants, etc. nearby, and because it's a known name. So it carries that premium, and it's very clear if you look at some homes in Overland Park, and this isn't true of all homes, but on balance, if you look at homes in Overland Park compared to Olathe, you're going to get a little bit more bang for your buck. Of course, that's the difference in the value of the location. But if you're looking for a bigger house that happens to be a little bit newer, Keep in mind, one of those cons was that Olathe is a little bit farther outside of the central Kansas City, Missouri area. That happens to be a benefit if you're looking to stretch your money as far as you can, get a newer house, get something a little bit bigger for your money, then you could get a little bit closer to downtown Kansas City. So here's proof of that exact idea. Here's a chart that'll show the median sale price over the past year or so. This excludes any new homes, which we'll cover in part number 3. So you can see you've got Leawood, Prairie Village. These are some of the more expensive places you can live. Overland Park, of course, we've got the crown jewel on there. Lenexa is very similar to Overland Park, but also has some very big differences. I'll link a full video down in the description between those two, but you can see Olathe happens to be one of the least expensive places that you could live among some of the top rated in the Johnson County area. Number 3, as promised, is all about new construction. I think there are 3 key advantages to building or buying a new home in Olathe. Number 1 is that because it is farther away, there's more land that you can choose to develop, right? There are a lot of different new home communities, a lot of different homes for sale, which is my second point. There's a lot more to choose from. And when we've got a housing shortage, it can be very difficult to find homes for sale. And the ones that are for sale are getting into bidding wars. They're going over the asking price by sometimes a lot of money. So if you're looking for, a lot of different options when it comes to new construction, Olathe definitely has many to choose from. Lastly, number 3 is the price. The price to build, the price to buy a new home. Here's a similar chart to what we looked at previously. This time we're excluding any old homes. So these are just newer homes. You can see Leawood and Prairie Village, kind of like we talked about, those 2 suburbs are already basically built out. South Leawood's a different story. Prairie Village and most of Leawood are already developed. So in order to build a new house there, you've got to buy a lot, tear down the existing structure, and that can sometimes cost between $200,000 to $400,000, sometimes even more. You've got Overland Park and Lenexa, which are kind of neck and neck between $700,000 and $850,000 to build in. And I'd actually be surprised if you could find a place to build in Overland Park for less than $700,000. So there's almost a 6-figure difference between building in Overland Park versus Olathe. You can see on that chart, we've got Olathe at the 600s, but I can tell you for a fact, I've got a client building for less than $500,000 in Olathe right now, which is crazy to think about. There's nowhere else in the Johnson County area, unless you go to more rural parts of the county, where you can find home prices for new homes that low. Okay, I know that was a lot of the real estate talk, and I am going to talk about other things in this video, but real quick, if you're enjoying it or if you find it helpful, let me know by hitting that like button below. I love your feedback. It helps me make better videos, so I hit the nail on the head with the next one and every single one after that. Of course, this is a good introduction. I've got a lot of different videos about Olathe on this channel because it's so popular and a lot of my clients are drawn to it. But if you'd like to get more specific, just like I have with my other clients, go ahead and send me a message if you think we'd be a good fit, and we can start from the bird's eye view and we can get way more specific to your timeline, your budget, what you're looking for, the feel of the home, and also the feel of the neighborhoods. And I think that'll help accelerate this and cut through all of the noise a lot quicker. I know it's tough when you're looking for a new area. I'd love to do my part and help out. So feel free to reach out to me. We can set up a time. Let's move on to number 4. Now, this happens to be one of my favorite things about Olathe, which is the Olathe Public Schools. And it's not just because if you look at the ratings, of course, the ratings are good, but I really do think that the ratings can be pretty arbitrary. Just so you know, Olathe is in the top 3, at least in Johnson County. It's rated as one of the best in the entire Kansas City metro area. If you look at the individual school ratings, they all look excellent. But what I think really sets the Olathe Public Schools apart is that they have specialized programs in the high school. So here's my understanding of this. In middle school, the kids can apply to enroll in these special academies, which are all housed in different high schools. So here's a picture of what that looks like. So for example, let's say I'm in 8th grade, I'm applying to be in the business finance special program in Olathe South. Well, if I get accepted, that means that I'm going to Olathe South. So the academies basically dictate which high school the kids actually end up going to, which I think is really cool. Obviously, like the big benefit of this is like we hear all of this craziness about kids when they get to college, if that's the plan, that they're switching majors, not sure what they want to commit to. This is kind of a test run to try it out before you spend tens and tens of thousands of dollars, because that gets a lot more painful. So not only is it specialized learning, it's a big test run that gets any of the flip-flopping out of the way early on and makes it way easier to focus on something down the line, which I think is really cool. Kind of touched on this in the new homes and the home prices in general, but this one is all about the number of homes for sale, right? One of the biggest problems that a lot of people searching for homes right now are facing is we've got this big housing shortage, right? Few people are wanting to sell their houses when mortgage rates are like 6-7%, and they'd be basically doubling their interest payments overnight if they sold their house and bought a new one. So that's one of the biggest challenges. It's causing bidding wars, all sorts of things. But Olathe happens to have some of the most amount of homes on the market in the entire Johnson County area. Let me back this up with data. So take a look at this. We've got yet again Overland Park at one of the top positions, but this is mostly because it happens to be bigger than the city of Olathe. It's like, right, we looked at the population sizes. Overland Park's about 180,000 people. Olathe is about 140,000 people. So we've still got a lot of homes for sale in both of those cities. So I think this would apply to Overland Park as well. But again, you've got to consider the price difference. So not only do you have a lot of options, but in Olathe, they're going to be a little bit less expensive because of the location, because it's a little bit farther away from downtown Kansas City. So I really prioritize flexibility. I love having a lot of different options. I think that's how you can get the most value for your money. I think it's when you're backed into a corner and there are a limited number of options in the market. I think that's where things can get really tricky and it becomes a lot harder to find your next home. Okay, these last two are kind of short, but we are approaching the end. Number 6 is that I've had a couple different inspectors tell me that the foundations that they've seen, the structure of the homes that they've seen in Olathe compared to some other cities seem to be pretty high quality. There are some places in the Johnson County area where the basements tend to have a lot of water in them. And sometimes it's the homes that were built in like the 1950s. So Prairie Village, there are some homes there that have issues with this. This point is just kind of arbitrary. I don't have any like hard, solid data to back this up with. This is totally anecdotal, but I do think that there is some value in knowing that the foundations are solid, that we're not seeing a lot of shifting. And I'm basing this off of inspectors who do this day in and day out. They've seen hundreds and hundreds of homes. So while it is anecdotal and we don't have actual data to back this up with, there is some validity to those claims. Again, it's just something to think about. Inspections, for the most part, that I've had in Olathe have all gone pretty well. Now, this brings us to the last one, which is Lake Olathe. This is one of my favorite places in Olathe. There's a lot that's being developed around the area, a lot of new home communities around the area. I've had several clients buy homes in some of those communities. It looks great. It's very peaceful. They've got a lot of activities, but I don't want to spoil it because I've covered it in a couple other videos. So I will leave a whole playlist linked down in the description below to all of the videos I've done on Olathe, because we've done quite a few. But I think there's a good reason for that. And that's because the city's growing really quickly. A lot of people are moving there, and it's no coincidence that I've had several people from all over the country, and a good amount of them have actually ended up in Olathe for a lot of the reasons that we've discussed above. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it valuable. If you did, make sure to let me know by hitting that like button below. Subscribe for more videos about Kansas City real estate and the suburbs here. And of course, if you'd like to get more specific, I know this is a great introduction. I would love to hop on a phone call with you, or we can go back and forth over email and make sure we're getting this information as specific as possible to you, your timeline, your preferences, budget, all of the things, because it'll make this research phase a lot quicker. So feel free to reach out to me. All my contact info's in the description down below. Phone call, email, text. And of course, thanks for watching the video. I'll see you on the next one.